grade A students, honestly, they got top marks in everything. Can't hold a conversation. Firstly, I was a very shy person, right? I still am to some extent, but very, very shy. If like I had to walk into a room full of people that I knew, I'd find that daunting. Through the blessings of Dawat Islami, I've attended gatherings with hundreds, if not thousands of people, and I've delivered a bayan in front of them.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Welcome to another episode of Heart to Heart. Today we'll be discussing about street life, or what we call the Roadman Culture. And we have a very special guest with us today. I'll let him do his introduction. And but just before we get started, just this guest knows the streets better than Google Maps. And I'll let him do his intro now.
My name is Waseem. So in terms of profession, I work as a solicitor and I run my own law firm as well. So I can kind of see things from that perspective, but also I've been engaged in what you would kind of generally term community work for a number of years, and that's through the platform of Dawat Islami. And so we've seen kind of firsthand the sharp end of some of the problems faced by youngsters, by their parents and the community generally, whether that's drugs and substance misuse and those kind of things.
MashaAllah. And that's why I wanted you to do your intro, because I don't think I would have done justice to it. But you've mentioned lawyer. We all know you're a lawyer. But is there more to it? Are you just a lawyer, or do you do something else within that field as well?
Yeah, so I qualified as a solicitor in 2009. So I've been practicing for around 15 years now. And getting to that stage itself was, it's long, arduous journey and lots of obstacles and what have you. But then I alhamdulillah, I was lucky enough, I got a training contract and I qualified. I then, about 10 years into that, I set up my own law firm, which was again another chapter, anxious times. Being a good lawyer doesn't always translate to being a good businessman. So that was another challenge for me. But alhamdulillah, through Allah's blessing and parents' du'as, we kind of got over that and we've got a successful business now. And then around the same time, I was also appointed as a part-time judge. So I sit as a judge in the tribunal system, where we hear appeals from people that have been kind of refused an application, essentially.
Oh Allah. So you're also a judge. MashaAllah. That's amazing. So what was the journey? So you've started off with being a solicitor, but what was the journey to get into being a judge? Was that hard for yourself, or?
Yeah, I mean, there's been lots of parts of the journey that have been challenging. Nothing's ever easy, and everybody has their own challenges in their own kind of unique way. Whatever career path you choose, whether that's kind of one of the traditional professions or indeed business or entrepreneurship or whatever. See, for me, one of the biggest things was that as I entered kind of the legal field, I didn't have any sort of contacts. I didn't have an uncle who owned a law firm. I didn't know people who were working in law already, and it's very oversubscribed. So I still remember applying for training contracts like a job, right? I still remember putting in an application and ringing a week later to say, I sent an application last week. Could you tell me what's happened? And getting the response that, we had one vacancy and we had 400 applicants.
Allah.
And so we don't even have the time to get back to everybody to say we've received your application. So that's what I was up against. And I still remember a friend of mine, because as you're law students, all you're thinking about is your career, right? You're thinking about, will I get a job? So I bumped into a friend of mine on a train after we'd left law school. And in them days, the first question you ask is, hi, how are you doing? And the second question is, have you got a job? Have you got a training contract? And I vividly remember bumped into him on the train and I said, oh, have you managed to find a job? And he said, yeah. I thought, wow, amazing. How? And he said, well, it turned out that his dad used to play golf with somebody, and that person he played golf with was a partner in a law firm. So he asked him, says, could you give my son a job? He says, yeah, I'll give you a job. And, kind of that's the scenario
contacts.
that you're up against. And I didn't have, my dad doesn't play golf. My dad worked all of his life as a labourer in a factory. So those kind of challenges you come up along the way. But if you don't give up, if you stay steadfast, and if you kind of, obviously we believe close to your deen and sincere, inshallah, you'll get there in the end.
Allah. And I think one of the I think something amazing you said there. Nothing's ever easy. I think that's just something that everyone needs to remember, especially our viewers. Nothing's ever easy. For mashallah, you've told us about your journey, and that brings us to today's topic, Vaseem, by that the roadman culture. Now we hear this word thrown out quite a lot. Bro's a roadman culture. I want to be a roadman, but what is this? What is this roadman culture? Is it because you'd probably know better than me? But what is because you know the system and everything? And what is this? Is it just wearing some nice tracksuits, or I don't know, just going on the streets? What is this?
Let me tell you. Let's start at the end and then we'll work our way backwards. I'll tell you a story of the impact of this kind of culture. Call it roadman, call it gangster, call it thuggery, whatever you want to call it. Call it just chilling with the boys, right? As people do. So as a young lad, just turned 18, and this is going back a few years. He gets a text message. Text messages are flying around that something's going down in Bradford. And all of his friends and everybody in the group say, let's go, let's check out what's happening. And that was the night on which there were riots in Bradford. Now, this 18-year-old, he's just in a car with friends. Doesn't really know where they're going, doesn't know what's going to happen. Anyway, they find themselves in the middle of the Bradford riots. And if you follow the news and what have you, you'll know in the riots there were showrooms that were absolutely destroyed, millions of pounds worth of damage done to the city. And so understandably the authorities took a very, very hard line against the people involved. Now this 18-year-old just finished college, did really well in his A-levels, about to embark on university, and he gets caught up in all of that. He's arrested. Never been arrested in his life, never been to police station in his life. And he goes through the court system and he's sentenced to 2 years in prison. Out of nowhere.
Wow. 2 years in prison?
2 years in prison. Now, I think he appealed and there were some things, but the fact of the matter is he's a criminal record now at the age of 18. And the reason of that is why? Because of that culture that develops in young boys, especially young lads, as you're growing up, as you go through your teenage years and you leave school and that kind of time in your life, which is that you need to belong to a crowd, you need to belong to a group of people. And, you know, the dangers of that, especially if the inclination of that group or those types of people is street culture and you know, those kind of gatherings, and whether it's drugs and those kind of areas, then look, the risks are huge for anybody involved in that.
I mean, I was going to ask you how easy it is to get caught up in all of this culture, but I think you've pretty much explained that pretty well from this boy's story.
Yeah.
So, do you think many youngsters don't really understand the severity of how easy it is to get involved with all of this and the sort of effects it can have on their lives?
You know, friendship and your friend circle is probably one of the most important decisions you make as you go through your teenage years. As important, a lot of people will focus very much on what A-levels they pick, what university they decide to go to, but you know, your friend circle is probably one of the most important decisions you're going to make during those crucial key years of your life, because it can impact lots of things further down the line for you. And, you know, we see the real life examples of that. And this is something, you know, from a religious point of view as well, Zaheer bhai, that we're advised about checking our friendship circle. Imam Ghazali, who, you know, they refer to him as the proof of Islam. This is an individual with intellect and wisdom beyond our imagination. And he mentions the story of a father and his child. Father and child have been shopping, or they've been out buying some groceries, and they come home and they've got a bag of prunes, right? And sorting them out, and they put them into kind of a container or a basket, and one of the prunes has gone bad. Dad says to his son that, because he's given that task to his son, and he's sorting them out, and he says to his son, look, there's a bad prune in there, take it out. And he says to his dad, it's all right, we'll deal with it. We'll deal with it. And, you know, the background is that this father and this son would often have that conversation, because his father would say to him, I'm not keen on this friend of yours. I'm not keen on the people you hang around with. And he said he would say to his father, don't worry, you're worried about them. As long as I'm good, Dad, that doesn't matter who I hang around with. So anyway, a few days passed, and that same basket of prunes, the father says to his child, have a look at those prunes now. And what had happened is that one bad prune had made all of the other prunes that were in contact with it, made all of them go bad as well.
Yeah.
And the father said to his son, this is why I keep warning you about your friends. You might be good, you might be sincere, you might have pure intentions, but if you're in contact with people who are not of the same thoughts, who don't have the same ideas, who are not sincere, who are not on the straight path, then there's a risk that they could contaminate you as well. And that's a really valid and important life lesson for us.
Yeah, I agree with you, Waseem. But it's like a bit of an example of mold as well. So mold, although we only see mold on top of the bread, so we think that part of the bread's gone bad, but in reality, the mold's got its roots deep inside, and you don't see those roots. You only see what's on top. So it could be a bit like that you've got these roots are slowly infiltrating you. So the bad friendship is infiltrating you, but you don't really know until you see the effects, which is the mold afterwards.
Just a very, very practical example. Have you ever, you're inside the house and someone in the kitchen is making curry, making handi, right? You can come from upstairs with a brand new jabba, with your favorite aftershave, perfume, whatever, and you literally open the kitchen door to say Allah Hafiz to your mom. You walk out smelling like a chicken curry. Yes, 30 seconds, but that smell connects with your clothes, isn't it? So, just to emphasize the point, which is your contact, your environment, the people that you're in touch with, undoubtedly will have an impact upon you. They will rub off on you. They will influence you. And I had a friend of mine as well. I met him after a long time. And, in his language, every so often he'd use the F word. And I didn't remember him like this. He wasn't like that. And I says, Yard, what's going on? You didn't used to talk like this. And his way of speaking as well was, and he said, it's the people I'm hanging around with. The people you hang around with, their language will influence you. Their thought pattern will influence you. Their habits will influence you. How many people have you heard of? They weren't smokers. They started smoking. Why? Because their friend smokes. And it's not necessarily a friend who is a lifelong friend. I know somebody who started smoking because he had a work colleague. They used to take their breaks together. The work colleague during the break would have a cigarette. And this guy, over time, he started smoking because of that as well. So company, of course.
It's like vaping for the youngsters. I feel like that could be a topic on its own.
That's another topic on its own, absolutely.
But literally just vaping, like you said, just through friends and the setting, that you get caught up with it. But then we were talking about these small crimes and how they can have a big impact on your life. So let's say someone is a very good student and he wanted to go to uni, he wanted to do law, he wanted to do medicine, but now because he's done these small crimes, he's got caught up in the system. What's going to happen? What's going to happen with him?
Look, I mean, you don't want anyone to be despondent completely because that's Islam advises to stay away from that. Whatever circumstances, you make the best of those circumstances, right? You've heard the story of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. He was walking and he heard a young boy, and he was he was like singing some sort of melody. The young boy, but he had a beautiful voice, and the Prophet alayhi salam, he said to him that you have such a beautiful voice only if you use that voice to recite the Quran. Right? So everybody has some skill, some quality, some attribute, and what our deen encourages is whatever attribute you've been given, whether that's you're smart, you're intellectual, or you have a good voice, or you're strong and powerful, or energetic, all of those kind of things, whatever skill set you have, whatever skill you have, use it for the betterment of your deen. Use it for the betterment of Islam. And so whatever situation, in answer to your question, somebody finds themselves in, have a think about what your qualities are. What strengths do you have? And focus on those strengths, refine them, hone them, and use them to kind of as a springboard for your career or for your education and any path that you want to go down.
So if someone has got caught up in the system, or he's gotten in this legal trouble, how can he rebuild now? How can he use the opportunity to rebuild and make the better of it?
The thing is, we all make mistakes, right? Life is full of mistakes. And there's no person that would say that I've never made any mistake in my life. The degrees and the types of mistakes, of course, are different for each person. But if there's someone that finds themselves in that situation, got involved with the wrong crowd, on the wrong side of the law, it's a mistake. use it as a learning opportunity. Don't kind of use that as an opportunity not to make the same mistake again, and use it as a springboard. There's no problem that you'll face in life where that you can't overcome, and this is a problem that he or she has found themselves on the wrong side of the law, in a difficult situation. But look, build from that. That's ground zero. Build from that, whether if it's career, if it's education, whatever. And we would say as well, whether it starts with the deen, it starts with purifying yourself, connecting with Allah, connecting with the Quran, connecting with the masjid, and having that a spirituality. From that, all of the doors will open for you, inshallah.
So, Waseem, we've spoken about quite a few things here, but I just wanted to give you some time to give the youth some advice. So what would be your top tips for them, or like any advice that you want to give out to them?
We live here in the West, right? And those of us born and raised in this country, we go through the education system, and then we enter the jobs market, we enter the workforce, and we grow up in a situation where we're surrounded by lots of different challenges. But look, every challenge also presents an opportunity. There was, and you probably heard this story before, there was a company that sent salespeople, and it was a company that used to sell footwear, shoes, and they sent salespeople. Anyway, they sent these two salespeople to a very remote part of Africa. And the job for the salespeople was very, very simple. Go and sell the shoes. Go and sell the footwear. And they went to this remote part of Africa, and both the salesmen, they rang back to head office, because what they found there was that it was so remote, this place, hardly anybody was wearing shoes. It just wasn't custom there. So the two people, how they react to that is very, very different. The first guy rings the head office and he says, "You've sent me to the wrong place. Nobody's here is wearing shoes. They don't wear footwear. It's just not in their custom. I'm not going to sell a single pair here. Call me back to head office and send me somewhere else." The other guy, confronted with the same situation, he rings head office and he says, "You know what? I don't think you've given me enough stock. You need to send me more stock. Why? There's not a single person here wearing shoes. I'm going to sell everything to all of these people."
Oh, the difference between the
look,
mindset.
Same situation, but the mindset and the approach that you take to something. And that would be kind of my overall advice. Whatever situation you find yourself in, people at the moment, are struggling with lots of things, with identity, with balancing deen and dunya, with lots of things that are going on all around the world, and lots of things that we see and hear in the media. Genuinely, a lot of youngsters and a lot of people growing up in Western countries are struggling with that. But look, if you keep focused, that we face challenges, of course we do. But if you look through the history of Islam, there is not a single community in the ummah throughout the history that didn't face different kinds of challenges. In fact, the Prophet alayhi salam, our role model, our the mercy of the universe, he said that, the way in which I've been tested, no other Prophet of Allah has been tested in that way. Yeah? And that's profound. That is profound. That the Prophet alayhi salam, the best of creation, for us, the soul of our belief system, he faced so many challenges in his personal life in trying to spread the message. Then, of course, when we're looking at our lives and we feel we've got the challenges, when you have your mind set towards the bigger picture, inshallah, you can overcome them as well.
Inshallah. And I think what you just said is beautiful, because a lot of us often think that we're going through these problems and no one else can go through what we're going through, or this is the hardest thing I've ever gone through. But then again, if we look at the life of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, or even if we try to look for people below us, we'll realize that we're actually not that bad. Like we're quite well off compared to other people. So I think that's beautiful advice we're seeing by. But I'll go towards closing. But one final question, because I feel like it'll be injustice if I don't ask you. So for young Muslims interested in law, or someone who maybe wants to just go to uni, what advice do you have for them? How can they get into law?
My overall advice would be to get work experience. Last week I was at Bradford University and I was speaking to law students, second and third year law students. And look, law is very, very competitive. I said before, one job and 400 applicants. The jobs market is difficult. There's lots of people coming through the education system, universities. There's just not enough jobs to go around, and what that means is therefore that you're going to be competing with lots of your peers to land that job. What will set you apart is work experience. From if I'm wearing my employer hat right now as a business, I'm looking for people not necessarily just with the first class law degree and straight A's in their A levels and in their GCSEs. I'm looking for people who actually have work experience, people who've been in the works market, in the jobs market, people who've got soft skills as well, who can network, who have communication skills, interpersonal skills, and you will only build them by getting work experience. You're not going to build them scrolling Instagram. You won't build them scrolling TikTok. No matter how many influencers you try to learn from, it's not going to happen. You've got to put yourself out there in the situation. So many people you'll see Zaheer, by grade A students, honestly, they got top marks in everything, can't hold a conversation, can't communicate. So you've got to go on and put yourself out there, and just bring it back to Dawat Islami. When I was going through university, I was a very shy person, right? I still am to some extent, but very, very shy. If like I had to walk into a room full of like people that I knew, I'd find that daunting. I was lucky that during university I found Dawat Islami, and Dawat Islami encouraged me to start what we would call public speaking. And I still remember the first time I did that. It was maybe 5 people I was sat in front of, and it was I'd been preparing for this for weeks. It's what we call a dars, right? A short speech after namaz in front of just the people who've come for namaz. And my mentor at the time was a person called Adil Bhai. He was my mentor, because he would come to my local masjid and he would do it. And anyway, he trained me up and he said, look, one day you're going to do this. So I prepared, and he gave me a date in advance and he said, you're going to do it. I'm prepared. And then the day it was going to happen, I'm walking to the masjid and I rang him and I said, I can't do it. Honestly, I said, I can't do it. I said, I'm not even in the masjid and I'm already anxious and my palms were sweating and all sorts. He said, look, relax. I'm going to come. I'm going to be with you. I'll sit with you, but you are going to deliver it. And credit to him, Allah reward him. He sat with me, he encouraged me, and I delivered that in front of 5 people. And from there, I developed to the point where, alhamdulillah, through the blessings of Dawat Islami, I've attended gatherings with hundreds, if not thousands of people, and I've delivered a bayan in front of them. But that skill of public speaking, of confidence, of engaging with people, Allah Ta'ala blessed me with that skill through Dawat Islami, through the work of Deen. So my message to youngsters who are watching this, young Muslims, get involved in your local masjid, right? Get involved with them. Every masjid needs help, whether it's admin stuff, whether it's organizing things, whether it's doing stuff with the youngsters and the kids. Get involved with your local mosque, get involved with your local Dawat Islami, and you can hopefully start building these skills as well.
SubhanAllah. I mean, I was going to literally ask you how we can use our communities and Dawat Islami to help us, but SubhanAllah, you answered it already. We're on the same wavelength.
MashaAllah.
But I would have never thought you'd be someone shy, because we've always seen you on Madani channel, or we've seen you doing these speeches in front of so many people. And alhamdulillah, you're so confident that many youngsters look up to you. They'll be like, I want to be like him. Even when I was doing my speeches, I would look at you and I'd be like, mashallah, I want to take inspiration from him and be like him one day. And but whatever you said, I agree with it fully, because even me, when I was going through medicine, and I could never probably do public speaking, but through the blessing of Dawat Islami, I'm now able to do that. I still struggle. I still shake. I'm still often scared, but you're able to do it because Dawat Islami gives you that platform, and it's so amazing that I was able to hear that from you.
And you've got to put yourself in difficult situations. Some people talk about like imposter syndrome and feeling uncomfortable. If you're going to feel comfortable all of the time, you're not progressing. For those people who go to the gym, I obviously don't go that often, as you can probably tell. But for the people who do go to the gym, you're only going to build muscle when you actually feel pain lifting weights. If you're lifting weights which are easy for you and you don't even feel it, you're not going to build muscle. You build strength, you build resilience, you build character when you put yourself in difficult, painful situations. And that first time when you did a speech, that would have been painful, right?
It was.
nervous,
I was
nerve-wracking,
scared. I was
shaking,
shaking.
scared, overthinking, all of those kind of things. But that situation will build you. The next time will be a little bit easier. The time after that will be a little bit easier.
जी बिल्कुल, and 100% agree. It is getting a bit better as we go in. But Waseem bhai, thank you so much for coming down, giving us your time, because I know you're very, very busy, but this was amazing. Thank you
Anytime
so
for
much.
you guys.
But we'll have you, inshallah, for future episodes as well. And
Sure.
what I want our youth to do, our viewers, what we want you to do is to let us know what topics you want. We have Waseem bhai, we have this gem, we have this diamond. So tell us what you want us to speak to him about. You've seen how much experience he has. Tell us what you want to see, and inshallah we'll do it. So you can either let us know through the comments, or you can message one of us or our team, and inshallah we'll put those topics into our podcast. But I'll let Waseem bhai do his closing, his goodbyes to you, and then I'll say goodbye.
Jazakallah for inviting me onto your platform. Allah reward you for all the work you're putting in behind the scenes.
Jazakallah for coming.
The viewers will only see kind of the finished product, but obviously lots of time and effort goes into organizing it and preparing it. Allah reward all of you, and for those of our viewers who engage and join and share the message as well.
Ameen.
And hopefully see you again.
Inshallah. Right. Jazakallah khair for tuning in, guys. This is Heart to Heart. Until next time. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.